Hey everybody, it's JacqBean coming back with another Fear the Walking Dead review. We're going to be doing episode 2 today, and it looked really great. The trailer was really looking exciting, so let's get to this review. Okay, we're going to talk about Fear the Walking Dead episode 2, titled Blue Jay. And this looks like June's episode, so it's going to tell us about what's been happening with her. The episode starts out with June kind of packing up her medical tools. She got tranquilizers and the tranquilizer darts and a knife. She looks like she's going to perform surgery. But before she left, she also had a walkie-talkie sitting there, and she picked that up as well, and then she went heading out the door. Once she got outside, she started kind of nailing up messages on the trees that just said, Padre will take your children, Padre is alive, turn back, just trying to get people not to walk that way or to go that way, because the collectors were out and about ready to find children and bring them back to Padre. And you could tell as she walked around during the day that people had seen it, and they were writing messages back on the posters. Things like, yes, they took my daughter, or where can I find you? I'm sure that isn't what June wanted, but people were responding to the messages that she had put up. So we find out that the walkie-talkie that she has is wired to Padre. She can hear what they're saying, and they're telling a group of collectors to go, and they have a lead on the egg, and they want them to go to pick up this child. And June actually waits for them to come through. She tranquilizes them and knocks them out, and then she goes over to the boat and she cuts off their finger. She cuts off their finger using surgical precision, everything that they would probably do, and when they're doing some surgery. Of course, I wouldn't know, but sterilize her and cut off the fingers. And then she went back to where she was hiding out. She put the limbs, she took one finger off each person, and it looks like she took the finger next to the thumb. Which we'll later find out that she took the trigger finger off of these collectors that were coming out to take children, and she put it in like a sterilized fluid thing. I wonder what she's going to do with those things. And it looks like she's been doing it for a while. At the point that she was kind of back inside the place that she was staying, there was a call on the walkie-talkies where the guys was like, they got us. They took our fingers, and the person on the other end was just like, well, you should have been careful. It's going to be, it may happen because it's been happening for a while now. And remember, this was a 7-year jump from last season. When June was in the house, there was a man that came and knocked on the door. He had followed her back to where she was staying, and his name was Aiden. And he had a daughter named Hannah that had been taken from Padre years ago. And he really he saw her signs. He was the person that had been kind of writing the stuff on, like, who are you? Where can you help me? June is definitely in a really dark space. She doesn't want to help him. I think she was just putting the information out there so that people would know about the collectors. But she didn't want to know him. She didn't want to know his name or his daughter's name. But he did give her a picture and showed it to her of who his daughter was, and started to tell him some things about it. She looked at the picture a little suspicious. Maybe we'll figure something out, or that'll come up again later in the episode. But she's just like, if they've had your daughter for that long, then you're not going to get her back, because they hold that against you. They hold the things you love against you. So I'd like to know what it is that they held against June to really kind of turn her to such a dark place. while she was out, she saw another boat going across the water, and she tranked the folks inside of it. But one person ended up falling out. But she went and she got the boat and pulled it to the side, and then she realized once she was in there that it was Sherry and Dwight. And then the little boy that was with him that kind of fell out of the boat, he found her and put a gun on her until Dwight and Sherry could wake up. And I think they woke up pretty fast, considering that when it was the other guys, she had plenty of time to sterilize them and cut off their finger. But we find out that he is named Finch, and he is Dwight and Sherry's son, although he doesn't know it. And Padre doesn't know that Dwight is the father. And by the way, Dwight's name is Red Kite. I had to look it up. I didn't know that was a bird, but it actually is a bird. So Dwight's bird name is Red Kite. Dwight and Sherry really was going to the clinic to take Finch in order to get some surgery. It looks like, he's holding his side. They believe that it's his appendix, and they wanted to get him there, but because June captured them and kind of stabbed their boat, the boat isn't really in good shape, so they want her to do it, and will even try to bribe her to do it. They told her she's going to do it, or they're going to tell Padre that she's the one cutting off the collector's fingers. They want to know really what happened to her, because she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't have the stuff here to do it. They want to know what happened. Why did she kind of leave, and why would she not help them? And so they kind of made a deal with her that if she would do the surgery to see if it was his appendix, that they would give her another boat so that she can get out of here. She's like, I just want to get out of here. They'll give her a boat so that she can leave, and that way they won't ever need to tell her, or they won't ever need to tell Padre that it was her that was collecting her the collector's fingers. She told them that she had a place where she could do this surgery, but they couldn't ask her any questions, no questions. She just wanted to get it done so that she can get her boat and be out of there. So while they're in the surgery place, they've got Finch on the gurney and just kind of getting him prepared to do the surgery. Sherry is in the back of the office, for lack of a better term, and she is looking through this book, and it looks like all these experiments where they're doing experiments on people. And she kind of called Dwight and June back over, and they were like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? What were you doing here? And she said, even though they knew that June's stipulation was no questions, they were like, you need to tell us something about what's going on. And all of a sudden, Adrian, that was the dad from earlier, he comes busting in the room with guns, and he is looking at Dwight and Sherry as collectors. He's like, oh my God, 2 collectors here? What are you doing with that boy? Where are you taking them? You're from Padre? And yes, of course, they are collectors, but they are there for their son. They're not there to pick up any children. And he is adamant that his daughter is someplace with Padre, and they know, and somebody's going to tell him. Dwight goes to take the gun out of his hand, and he shoots the control panel or the lighting panel, so there's no electricity in there, and there's no way that they'd ever be able to help him. There'd be no way to do the surgery for Finch. So as Dwight needed to go to the back of the train in order to fix the control panel, so they are in a train, not in a kind of a standalone building, he couldn't, June stood in front of him, and she wouldn't let him through because the dead were in those cars going to the back. And then we find out that June worked there, they did experiments, not only on the dead, but on living people. And the Padre knew that she was working there. They didn't tell anybody that she was working there. But doing these experiments, and I think it was the one experiment on a real live woman that thought that she could fix carrion bites with radiation, but it was very painful and very slow. She couldn't do it, so she ran away. However, Dwight still needed to get to the back of that train, and going outside kind of wasn't an option because it was full of carrion or walkers. I think I'm going to end up putting those two things together. Dwight noticed that they could actually go up to the roof of the train and maybe walk across and get to the back of the train more quickly than worrying about the walkers, which they did, getting the lights or the electricity turned on so that June could proceed with the surgery. As they were going back, they climbed up back to the roof of the train. That's Dwight and Sherry. They just were kind of talking about, if they're doing this kind of thing, this place isn't safe. It actually kind of feels like the sanctuary, and we should take our son and leave here and just kind of create a family. And that did take me back to the Dwight and Sherry of sanctuary times. They ended up going to that place because they thought that it would be safe, that in doing some of Negan's dirty work, in order to fit in and to be there. And they just seem like a group that'll fall into these situations with the wrong type of people. Maybe trying to do it on their own is going to be a better situation for them. So as Dwight and Sherry were coming back across the top of the train, it collapsed and they fell into a car that was just full of crazy looking walkers. And June decided that she was going to go through to get them, because who knew this car worth of crazy walker experimented people than June? As June went through the train cars, there were all these walkers just growling, kind of tied to the wall, and all these little jars of heads and parts and all this kind of thing. That definitely was Frankenstein there. June even apologized. She was like, "I'm sorry." So you don't even know if they were walkers from the beginning, or were they people that they experimented on and they turned into walkers. But she finally got to the end of that cart, which was frightening enough by itself, and it was locked. She couldn't get the door open. As she's struggling to work that lock and try to pull it out with her bare hands, the walkers, were feverishly trying to get loose too. And a few of them did get loose, and they came walking towards June, who couldn't open the door. She shot as many as she could, but became overwhelmed, and they knocked the gun out of her hand. So she's down there, vulnerable, laying there with walkers coming towards her. Would they kill June this early in the season? I don't think so, but let's see what happens. Adrian showed up, and he just started getting the ones that she couldn't get because they were kind of piled on top of her by stabbing them with the knives. And she even got mad at him. She said, "Didn't I tell you not to follow me?" And he was like, "You better be glad that I did." And at this point, June, Adrian, and then Finch even got out of bed and said that he wanted to help as they went through the train to reach Dwight and Sherry. And when they all kind of got together, Sherry and Dwight told Finch that they were his parents, and that they're going to be together and they'll kind of keep together and do things as a family. I'm pretty sure he was getting ready to say, "Get out of here, y'all are crazy, Padre," because he was ready to go and show Padre that he was able to kill the carrion that were in that train. But he started having pains, and he needed to really get back so that they could give him that life-saving surgery that he needed to be okay. As they were going back to get to the surgery car, Adrian turned around and saw that there was a little girl walker or carry-on, and all he could do is look at her and go, Hannah. It was his daughter. Then Adrian turned to June and was like, you killed my daughter, you killed her. And she was like, no. He's like, you're a liar. And he said, no, I didn't kill her, I tried to save her. And she went on to tell the story that Hannah had first came in when she got to Padre because she was having problems with her asthma. She saw the girl, she liked her, she was nice, she reminded her of her daughter, and she missed her dad. But at one point she had went out, she got bitten, and she wanted to help her like she would have tried to do with her own child. So she used radiation to try to help Hannah because she had seen a person that had some exposure to radiation, but they were around a long time with the bite. And she believes that the amount of radiation she gave to Hannah only made it worse for her. So it really comes back to that story that she was telling them earlier about this woman. I think they called her Shrike. If that was her, she thought that using radiation would help with the bites. That really isn't what it was. June thought that the radiation would help with the bites. That was her suggestion and plan and the treatments. But she couldn't kill her because they wouldn't let her. They wanted to let her turn so that they could do more experiments and do more research and studying of her. And Adrian just looked so defeated. You know, in his mind, he had something to live for. It was Hannah. And now he really kind of understands why June doesn't want to be around people, why she doesn't want to do that, why she doesn't have anything else to live for. And saying that, he took himself and he walked into the train where Hannah was. And eventually he was taken out by her because she's a walker. She's not a little girl. June was able to complete the surgery on Finch, and she was looking to get her boat so she could get on. And Dwight and Sherry was like, we're going to get you the boat. When the boat gets here, we want to get on that boat with you. We don't want to go back to Padre. We don't want to take our son back there. And June was still like, we made a deal. This is for me. I am out. I'm out of here. I don't want to be with nobody at no time doing anything. But they were able to talk her into it. They wanted her to be part of their family. They wanted to leave as a family. And they felt like she was part of their family. And so she said yes, she would come with them. But she did want to go back and give Hannah and Adrian a burial, just so that they weren't just walkers, living in the train. But all of a sudden, the door opens and the Padre people come through the door. Oh my God. They want June to stay aboard to perfect this cure. And she's going, it's not a cure. Everybody died. And it looks like Padre is going to be doing something expansive that he wants to create this cure for. He wants all of the children to be safe. That's what Shrike kept saying. And one of the things that we noticed from here is that Shrike was one of the people that she cut off their trigger finger. Shrike wears this glove with this big rubber finger, but she took it off and it showed the stub. She said she knew that it had to be June because no one else could be that precise. So June, of course, was like, I'm not doing any more of this. I'm not doing that. I'm not helping you. And she said, yeah, you will. You just need a little motivation. And at that point, they bring in a head of a walker and they, put it in a little vise and they bring it down to let it bite on poor little Finch. And of course, Dwight and Sherry was losing their mind. They were like, I'm gonna kill you. And she was like, yeah, I don't think so. But she's doing that to make sure that June will continue to do the work for Padre. Dwight told her that he was going to kill her. But she goes, and why would you do that? I'm the only person that could save him, or we're the only people that can save him. Looking at June, and then she had them take Dwight and Sherry away. So it feels like now she's going to do some experimentation on poor little Finch, or she's going to make sure that June does this experimentation on him to show that he can be all right. But even June is saying, listen, none of this has worked. All these people had died. Ooh, she's a terrible person. That's also the person that was taking the blood from Madison. So if you remember her from that first episode, she looked crazy, don't she? But I think they call her Shrike. So upon them taking Dwight and Sherry out of the room, guess what they do? They take poor June's trigger finger. They hold her hand down and take off her finger. But you know what June did? To like numb people's fingers, to do it medical, make sure it was sanitary. They could not care less. They just literally pushed her fingers back, took the knife and cut off that finger. It was awful. And that was the end of June's story for this episode. But we got one more thing that happened. In the first episode, you remember at the end when they took both Morgan and Madison away? They were no longer of any good to Padre, and we were talking about that they were going to, that they would be taking them to kill them. So when we catch up with Morgan and Madison, they are in a truck together, being driven to wherever it is they're going to go. And they start to have this conversation about why Morgan feels like he can't take care of Mo. And he started to talk about it was because it was something that he did do, or really something that he didn't do. And that he didn't think that he could fix it. He may be able to fix some parts of it, but he wouldn't be able to fix it as a whole. And I believe that he was talking about Jenny. He never shot her. And in the, when he should have, and that in the end, what happened to Dwayne was his demise. And Madison tells him, well, you need to get over it. You need to do what you can do so you can get over it, because she needs you. She needs you. She needs her dad. And they were like, and Morgan was pretty much like, well, ain't nothing I can do about it right now, because I don't have no control over this situation. So we don't realize it, but you know that Madison has that issue with her breathing and stuff, so she feigns being, hurt, and she kind of falls to the floor. Morgan is like, stops the driver. It's like, listen, she needs something, she needs some air. Get in here, help her. And when they opened the door, she tackled them and told Morgan to run. So the very end of the episode is where she tells Morgan, run. And Morgan jumps out and starts running, still with handcuffs on, running for his life. So that was the end of episode 2. It's going to be really interesting. I want to know what's going to happen with Dwight and with Sherry. Will they end up the way Morgan and Madison had been, like going to their death? Will Finch be okay? Is he going to turn into a walker? I'd hate to see that happen. He's just such a little kid. And now they have Madison once again, as she, sacrifices herself to let Morgan go and find Ren, and for them to become a family. It's definitely getting very interesting. So tell me what you think. Write in comments that you have below. And if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe and hit the ring for notifications so that you know when my next video comes out. Until next time.